Hope with the names so everybody knows each other.
Richard.
Dave.
Tony.
Rondine.
Simon.
Tony.
Ainsley.
Damien.
Kat.
Okay. Yeah. Most of you know what we're on about. A couple of newbies here, so we'll give it a basic run through again. Not anything new we talk about. No, not some newfangled cult or idea or anything. It's the base of all the great traditions, if you look into them closely enough. You'll see it there. Gets obscured by so-called concepts people put on it and ideas and things like that differentiate it from the totality. But it's what they call in Hinduism non-duality, and that's been taken on board these days. Non-duality is this, non-duality is that, and a big thing. But if it's not duality and non-duality, can you separate anything? And what label he put on it is not it anyway. So that's why we say we can't tell you anything, and we can't teach you anything. All we do is point toward and ask you to look to where we're pointing to see for yourself, because most of us have been conditioned, or all of us really have been conditioned to look in the wrong direction. When we learnt words and things, before they had the word, you were just functioning naturally and effortlessly. In the learning of words, we've taken on this conceptual idea or image that we are something separate. And the energy of belief has gone into that, and we've continued to do that all the rest of our life until something has moved us to move on. Something urges you to go to somewhere or hear something or listen to it. That's what's brought you here. Why would you come to this particular group if something hasn't resonated, or somebody has pointed something that's resonated a bit with you and brought you along to have a look? So when I say I'm not speaking to anybody, I'm not speaking to any mind. I'm not speaking to that body-mind identity you believe yourself to be. I'm speaking to that sense of presence that expresses through the mind as the thought I am. Just to this and nothing else. The sense of presence, or the awareness of presence, or the beingness. That's what they call it in Hinduism. The 5 factors of Hinduism are Sat, Chit, Ananda. Being, or consciousness, existence, consciousness, bliss, or being, knowing and loving to be is another way of putting it, or awareness of being is the natural, joyous state that you are, just to be that bare awareness of being. Now, is anybody unaware in this room right now? Have a look at that. And you can't say you are unaware. So if you're not unaware, what must you be? You must be aware, mustn't you? So you see, that's what we miss out on. You think we've got to find this awareness has become a concept or a word that we've got to acquire, and that's just the same as consciousness is a thing. I've got to be aware of my consciousness. But consciousness, if you look at it, it means an existence. Consciousness means an existence. You're all existing right now. An existence fully aware that it exists. And isn't that so? You can't say, I don't exist. You can put all the concepts on it, the concept I don't exist or I do exist, but just that full awareness or knowingness, which is not the awareness of something, just the same as the consciousness of something. Just an awareness that exists. You can't negate your beingness. You can't negate your existence. And that existence, the knowingness or expressing through it, the thoughts, feelings, emotion, everything expressing through that pure knowingness. But have they contaminated or corrupted the knowingness? Where they tell you in Buddhism, it's non-conceptual awareness. It's another way of putting the same essence. It's that recognition that you're not unaware without adding any concepts onto it. I'm this, I'm that, or I'm something else. Just a pure, fully aware of your existence. or knowingness. Another term for existence is knowingness. And when I say you, I'm not talking about an entity or an individual. I can't teach you anything and I can't tell you anything at any point towards it. Because what am I pointing to, what am I trying to teach or tell you? Anyone here, when you've investigated yourself, doesn't realise or recognise that that pattern, shape and form you take to be you is not your actuality. You're not that body-mind. That's the personal entity. Personal awareness is impersonal. The awareness is impersonal. The self is the one self. There's only self. But we take it to be the personal self, me, Bob, or you, whatever your name is or think you are, and label yourself to be the personal self. And that self has got to become liberated or realised or freed. But it's the wrong self you're trying to fix. It's an impersonal one, which never had any existence in the first place. So in recognising that you are that one self that's patterning, shaping, forming and appearing and everything, and the way it's patterning, shaping, forming is how it's vibrating or moving into different shapes, forms and patterns. Has it ever been anything but its true nature? The one essence, without any pattern, shape or form. So Satchitananda, Nama Rupa. The Nama Rupa, the other two factors of the being, knowing and loving to be, are the name and form. And haven't we ever been given a label ourselves? Our parents told you, little Johnny, or little Billy, or whatever your name is, like me, and you're a good boy or a bad boy, a good girl or a bad girl, or you're unhappy. We've taken the words to be the real and realise how many words did you have while you were forming in the womb? When you didn't have a brain, the brain had to be part of that formation. When the sperm and the ovum, two vibrating patterns of energy. Little microscopic particles you can't see with your naked eye. Suffused with an innate intelligence, suffused with the knowingness, the beingness, the knowingness and the loving to be. Formed out of the prana, the air, and the food eaten by your parents. In the father, a sperm. In your mother, an egg, an ovum. Two microscopic particles. But they realised that they were suffused with intelligence because that sperm knew what to do. And the egg, the ovum, knew what to do. It attached itself to the wall of the uterus. It wasn't floating around willy-nilly as a little blob. It was something that attached itself to the wall of the uterus. And the sperm was something that swam to the ovum, applying it was suffused with intelligence. If it was insentient and useless, it couldn't have done any of that. But it knew where to swim to and penetrate the ovum. And when those two came together, what happened? Functioning intelligence in those two coming together doubled that cell and redoubled it. And the genes that were in those two, whatever you like to call them, I don't know, I'm not a physicist or a scientist or anything like that, but doubled that cell and redoubled it. A little fetus began to form, little embryo. And it's that same little fetus, little embryo that came together as what you are today. But what did you do about it then? While you were in the womb, you realised you couldn't do anything. Now when you look back on it, you realise you don't even remember anything about that. And the first 2 years of your life, what do you remember about that? Before you learnt any words. Before the capacity of reasoning developed in you, what words did you have? Then you might understand some of these scriptural statements that are going around. And you'll see it in all the great treasure. In the Bible, for instance, it tells you, in the beginning was the Word. And it says the Word was with God, the Word was God. And don't you realise that's all it is? God is a Word. Not some great being out there in the sky that's above and greater than everything else, when it's the one essence, patterning, shaping, forming, appearing and expressing as everything. It's only that one essence. One jewel, not two. In the beginning was Word. The Word was with God, it says. And the Word was God. Pointing out that's all there is. All these labels we got for God is just words. Even the word God is a word. All things were made by Him, were made by the Word. And there was nothing made that was made without the Word. Have a look at that. And see all this manifestation around you. The pattern, shapes and forms, the people in this room, the space in the room, the things in the room, the curtains, the chairs, the tables, and outside and the trees, the flowers, the space and everything else. Well, got labels on them, words. And the Mahavakya, the great mantra, is I am that. And you know that in your language. Because don't you say that's the chair, that's the carpet, that's me, that's you, that's him, that's her, that's the tree, that's the flower, that's the earth. We know everything is that which we put words or labels on. And you weren't born with any words. And you didn't have any words until you reached the age of about 2.5, when that capacity of reason developed. And you started to understand or hear what your parents were saying around you. They were speaking words. And with that capacity of reason, you learned to grasp onto the word, take the word to be the thing. Instead of being the pure presence awareness, the sense of presence expresses and translates through the mind as that primary word, I am. Or, as they put it in the great scriptures, it's Om, a vibration, a sound. And there is any word that is not a sound. And is there any sound that is not a vibration? And is there any vibration that's not a seeming, somewhat, of a movement of energy? So it's all so-called energy, patterning, shaping, forming. We just put those labels on you, try to describe the indescribable. And we can't do it. So we learnt words and realised that every word you've ever spoken or ever likely to speak has been acquired, it's been learnt, it's been picked up, because, as I pointed out before, you weren't born with any words. These words weren't within you. They've been learnt, picked up. And again, going back to the point out in the Bible, Adam and Eve, they put it out, this is just a story also, but they see what it means. Adam and Eve were in the Garden of Paradise, the Garden of Eden. And they learnt words. They ate of the tree of knowledge, knowledge meaning intelligence, of good and evil, words. And that's when they kicked themselves out of paradise, and the learning of the words. And that's what we've done. We've learnt words. Now, the word's not the enemy. It's a very necessary part of this functioning now. But show me a word that is the real, that is the thing. Take the word water. Can you drink the word? Can you swim in the word? Can you wash in the word? Can you drown in the word? You can't. And what is the word water? And you break that down, it's even a couple of gases, hydrogen, oxygen coming together. You can't say there isn't even a thing called water. But there is that pattern, shape and form in which it's appearing and expressing, or seemingly so. Like the water in a mirage, it appears to be water in a mirage. You drive up to it, there's nothing there. But understand the appearance is not the actual. That's why the Buddhists tell you that all this manifestation is Maya. It is illusion. It is an illusory manifestation, and it's transient. They tell you that. Transient means it's constantly changing. It's got nothing static about it at all. As they point out, there's nothing static anywhere in this universe, in this manifestation. And there is no self-nature to anything. Look at those things. You hear them, oh yeah, that's a good way of putting it, but look at them and see how real they are once you investigate them, because the false cannot stand up to the investigation. And that's what will happen. We don't investigate. We've taken the word, belief in the word to be real, and we've never questioned it. And so we've taken on this idea of the person and realised the person is a word. Where does it come from? Persona, the mask. Latin or Greek, whatever it was, meaning persona, the mask. So we've got this conceptual image, a mask. I've put upon myself, I'm Bob, the Australian, the good fella, having a bad trot. They don't like me, or I'm introverted, or I'm unhappy, or I'm depressed. All these concepts have added onto that I thought, that I am, that I'm, which is a vibration, to seeming to give it some reality. A vibration, trying to give some reality. I've got this conceptual image. And we realise this conceptual image is a dead image. Because what you've added onto it, the name, the form, and all the ideas, if you had a bad childhood and you're unhappy and you're depressed and all this, are based on past events and experiences, not what's wrong with right now if you don't think about it. What image can you say you've got that's fresh and new right now? It's just as it is, isn't it? And what is means unaltered, unmodified, uncorrected. With those words that change it, the alteration, modify and correction. No preferences, no partiality, no comparison. Have any preference, partiality, comparison, what are you going to do? Take on words and label the words. So the capacity of reasoning develops us at about 2.5 when we start to have that capacity of reasoning. Before that, you're just functioning spontaneously. A little child, seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, but it's got no words. If it's happy, it'll gurgle. If it's unhappy, it'll cry, scream or yell, but sounds are coming out. They haven't been translated into any concepts, ideas or images. The true our parents family around saying, "You little Johnny, you're a good boy," or this, that and other, we learn these words and take the word to be real. I pointed out a minute ago, the word is not the thing, it's not real. It has no substance or any independent nature at all. But it's taken to be real. And this capacity of reasoning is a capacity these human patterns have shaped. It's much more developed than what it is in other animals, birds and insects. Take a bird. A bird has a capacity, a different capacity to us. It hasn't got the capacity of reasoning to the extent we have, but it has other capacities. It has the capacity of seeing. It's much more developed than what our capacity is. It has the capacity of flying. We can't do that naturally and absolutely, but through the capacity of reasoning, we've learned to build ourselves eyeglasses or binoculars or telescopes, things that enable us to see better. And through the capacity of reasoning, again, we build planes, helicopters and kites and balloons and things like that that enable us to fly. So the capacity of reasoning is very useful. But see what it is, because we put the reasoning and it vibrates in the opposites, it's the one that's put the limiting factors on us ourselves. That's the capacity of reasoning. It tells me after all, I'm only human, or I'm not good enough, or I'm fearful, or I'm sad, or I'm unhappy, or I'm depressed. Through the capacity of reason, we've learnt these words, and added these words onto ourselves and formed a conceptual image. Instead of seeing yourself as that pure, non-conceptual, ever-fresh presence awareness, we've taken on the conceptual this limited image. I'm Bob the Australian, the good fellow. That's what we call a reference point, the self-centre or the ego. Everything is related to this conceptual image I have about myself, this mask. And if you look at that and see that, that's what's happening in you. Unless you've looked at this stuff and understand it and grasp, that's what's happening in you. We're relating to this conceptual image, me. I've got to do this, I've got to become that. Not realising that becoming will never happen, because becoming implies a future time, and when you investigate this you'll see there's no such thing as time. Time is a conceptual, imagined thing. You ask yourself, is there a past if I don't think about it? What can you say? Pause the thought and have a look. What can you say without a past? You can't say, is there a future if I don't think about it? You can't say there's a past or a future without a thought. But you'll say, I was in the past. I'll say, prove it to yourself. Go back and live a moment ago. Live last week. Live last year. You realise you can't actually live a moment ago. You can recall it, but it's only a conceptual image in your mind. You can call what you did yesterday. Look at that. You can't even tell me what you thought a minute ago now unless you recall it. It's already dead and gone because the functioning is transient. It's constantly changing. The body you believe yourself to be is not the same body you walked into this room with. It's changing right now. There's cells dying and being replaced right now. Not one or two, but thousands of them. And that's been going on all the time. Look at your body. Was the body you had last week or last year? It's not. Go back in memory and the recollection to the time when you were far back as you can remember. And you don't remember anything before you were 2.5 when that capacity of reasoning developed. Whatever, it might have been earlier, it might have been a bit later. But that's the concept of time, past and future. Is there a future if you don't think about it? You can conceptualise and anticipate and imagine what you're going to do when you leave here and later on in the day and next week and all the rest to make plans. But when is that taking place? Isn't it taking place right now? If you're not conceptualising what you're going to do when you're leaving here, is there any such concept or ideas about it at all? There's not. So you see, this concept of time is a fiction also. What's happening in that pattern you call you? See that it's functioning naturally and effortlessly. Did you think about that breath you just took? No. Did you think about your heart beating right now? No, you're not thinking about it. Did you think about growing your hair and your fingernails, digesting the food? No. It's all happening naturally and spontaneously. The thoughts come up. And thoughts, to have the meaning in the word, we've got to relate to the so-called past, go into the concept of time. And then you take on the time and you've got all this conceptual conditioning we've taken to believe to be real. What conditioning is there if you don't think about it? Have a look at that, test these things out. And you realise that you can't say there is any conditioning without a thought. So it can drop away immediately. But the habitual pattern of it has been reinforced constantly. It'll probably come up again. But questioning it again and again, looking at it and say, knowing the truth about it, that's the old scriptural saying, know the truth and the truth will set you free. What have you got to be free from? Free from the belief that you are anything other than that. And you know that in your language. You say, I am that. And don't you also say, that's a chair, that's a carpet, that's the tree, that's the flower, that's everything is that which we put labels on. It's all that. That body mind you take yourself to be is that. But you put the label on, it's me, the Australian, the good fella, or whatever conceptual image you have about yourself. And so we lose sight of a natural truth that sets you free. You're free of the belief. And that's what we put the energy of belief into all these concepts and ideas and take the belief to be real. But look up your dictionary. Look up the word belief in the dictionary. And see the definition of belief is an unquestioned acceptance of something in the absence of reason. Acceptance. An unaccepted question
Acceptance of alleged fact.
Acceptance of alleged fact, yeah. These are all alleged facts without positive knowledge of proof. Put your belief to that test and see what's left when you put them to the test in. And then, when they're seen through, you're going to take them to be real any longer. No, they come up out of habit and they'll come up, but the fear, the anger, the distress, the unhappiness, the despair loses its intensity because you can't put the same value into it anymore if it's no longer believed in. And the recognition, recognising of it keeps coming up. It won't be taken as the real anymore after a while. You'll see it, the false is false, because the false cannot stand up to the investigation. It falls apart. That's why we need to question it, look at it. So what we've done with that capacity of reasoning, you can't do much. We've learnt I, me. You can't do much with I or me. Just words. But what we do to it, to give it some reality, we add on to all these concepts that we've learnt. Words. I'm Bob, an Australian, good fella, an unhappy, abused as a child, alcoholic, or whatever concepts, ignorant or fear, or whatever concepts have come up are added onto it, to give it some substantiality. Just as I or me, it's nothing, until it gets some seeming substantiality by adding all the concepts with it. And the Buddhists tell you the great perfection is non-conceptual awareness. Awareness without any of these concepts. You know, that's why I grasp all these things from the different scriptures and point out to them, I'm not a Christian, I'm not a Buddhist, I'm not a Muslim or a Hindu or a Jew or any of these great religions, but I can recognise the truth in all of them. And the truth in all, they all say, it's the one essence appearing and expressing everything. Hear, O Israel, the Lord thy God is one God, there is nothing other. And in Christianity, God is omnipresence, omnipotence, omniscience, the totality, total presence, total power, total intelligence, not three aspects, but the one. And the Buddhists tell you the great perfection is non-conceptual awareness, just the one, without the labels. They all tell you the one thing. The Muslims say there is no God but God. Allah is his name. Allah is the label we put on it. And Miss Holland, that the natural essence that everything is. So if everything is that, can you, me, or anything else, which are only things appearing in that, be anything other than other than that? When I've got this conceptual image of it, I believe I am a thing. And that thing I've got to believe I am becomes the self-centre, the reference point, or the ego. Everything becomes relative to that conceptual image. Self-centre, reference point of the ego is three different terms, labels we put on the one thing again. The concept. Me or I. And everything becomes relative to that image I've got. So that's what dualism is. Relationship. Relativity. Now, I haven't got this concept about myself. What can I relate to without the concept? Got no reference point to relate to. It must be just as it is. Whatever is right at this moment. And haven't you noticed over the years, there's no thought, feeling, or concept you've got that is static, that lasts. They're constantly changing. Might be seeming the same when we put the same label on, that comes and goes, but it's ever fresh and ever new. Every thought is ever fresh and ever new. But we put the old label on it and take it to be the one that's hung around for years and keep reinforcing it and believing it and get locked back into it again. Is there any necessity to do that? When it keeps you in the same old trap, and you realise that, I haven't recognised, haven't realised, we think we're going to realise this personal self, and it won't happen, and it doesn't happen. Because the person is not reality. It never was, never will be. And what we point out as non-duality, it's the one reality that's patterning, shaping, forming, and expresses you everything. If it's the one that patterns, shapes and forms in all this diversity and all this wondrous manifestation of different things, can they be anything other than the one? And that's why they say non-duality is one without a second. They put that without a second. It hasn't got any label or any concept that's divided into the second, because there is only that oneness, and it's not even one. That's the label we put on. One without a second, they say, not two. And when you're believing there's even the one, what's the next thing? 2, 3, 4, so on. The words, numbers come into it. Keep it in its simplicity, in its non-dual, simple, true nature. Recognise that. See that this ego is a fiction. How do you do that? You investigate it and see. You've added all these concepts to that I, me, Bob, the Australian, the good fellow, blah, 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 and everything becomes relative to that image. Have a look. What's happening? Basically, you're seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, thinking, feeling. The senses are vibrating, functioning and patterning. And what do we do on all those senses, sensations, and thoughts, feelings, emotions, whatever you like to call it? We put a label on. I see, I hear, I taste, I touch, I smell, I think. Who or what? Don't you realise it's this conceptual image you believe yourself to be? It's become the I and the me for you. Not as I as the one self appearing expression is now. It's become an seeming individual, separate I that I am. But is it? Is there such a thing as a separate entity? Have a look. Investigate. You're seeing anybody who is not seeing right now. And you must recognise, well, I'm seeing, I'm hearing, I'm aware, I'm not unaware, so I must be all of these things. So the seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling are happening. But ask yourself this, investigate it and see if this conceptual image you've got about yourself can see, hear, taste, touch or smell a thing. Ask yourself this, how's the seeing happening? And you'll realise the seeing is happening through the eye. When you opened your eyes this morning, did you have to say, I'm going to start seeing now, or was the seeing there immediately? It was there immediately. And isn't it the same seeing that's been going on all day since then? Was the same seeing you had yesterday, last week, as far back as you can remember? That same seeing is going on. The eye is the instrument through which it's happening. But we think the seeing has changed. But the seeing hasn't changed at all when you investigate it. It's the same seeing you had then, the so-called then, as what it is now, and what it will be, whatever. It's the same seeing. But the content has changed. And it's the content, the appearance, which is transient. It'll continually change. Different seeing to had what you just had yesterday, last week, last year. Different seeing to what you had this morning when you woke up in your bedroom or wherever you woke up. Might have been under a barbed wire fence, I don't know, but you woke up somewhere. Same seeing. And ask yourself this: does my eye tell me I see? You realise the seeing is happening through the eye, but that eye is not saying, look at this, Bob. Look at that, that's good, or that's bad. And I realise that I cannot say anything at all, but it is the instrument with the seeing is happening. And it's translated by that instrument we call the thinking, or the mind, into the thought I see. The same with the hearing. Hearing is happening through the ear, but the ear doesn't say, listen to this, listen to that. And the content of the hearing has changed, but it's the same hearing and seeing we've had as far back as we can remember it. The tasting, touching, smelling, feeling is the same. But we put that I on it and relate it to this conceptual image of it. I see, I hear, I taste, I touch, I smell, I think. So you put that conceptual image on it, you've formed a subject. Me, Bob, the good fellow that thinks it's seeing, thinks it's hearing, thinks it's tasting, touching, smelling and thinking. And when there's a subject there, The way the mind vibrates, and have a look and see, it always vibrates in the interrelated opposites. See how your mind's functioning, good, bad, past, present, happy, sad, positive, negative, always functioning in the dualistic pairs of opposites. As soon as they say, I see this and that becomes other than the I see. It becomes an object. So the seeing is split up into subject-object duality. But can there be a seer, the I thought I see, without seeing? There can't be the thought I see without the seeing going on. The seeing's happening spontaneously and naturally. It's a natural functioning. And I see the chair. The chair becomes the object. Because we put that thing in the room, what we call a chair, we put the object chair on it, the label. So seeing has been divided into subject-object. Dualism. But go back and have a look at it. Can there be a seer, the thought I see, without the seeing? There's no seeing on it. Can you say I see? Well, who's to say it? What is it? And without the object, the seeming chair, can you say I see the chair or anything? So subject-object dualism are concepts. The actuality is the seeing, the functioning. The same with the hearing. The same with the tasting, touching, smelling, thinking. I think. Can there be a thinker without thinking? This conceptual image we believe ourselves to be that does all this thinking and suffering from the think, because I believe I'm thinking this and thinking that and want to change the thinking. Don't you wonder why it never happens? Why you've searched, done all these mantras, read all these, sat in meditation, read books, gone to different teachers and all the rest of it. Though the truth has been pointed out down through the ages, you've never seen it because we try to work it out in the mind. Is there such a thing as the mind? Is there such a thing as the body? And yet no, innately there's not. Because you say my body. Don't you say my house, my car, my coat, my this, my that, my that? When you say they're my coat, my car, you know you're not the coat, the car or the house. My thoughts, you must realise you're not the thoughts, you're not the feelings, you're not the things. So you know you're not that innately, but we continue to believe it without investigating and seeing. Same with my mind. We think we are this body. Again, is there such a thing as a mind? If you don't think about it. What mind could you say you had before you learnt any thoughts or words and started to talk, took on the concepts of words? The 2.5 years, or whatever it was, you were functioning with the seeming, when the mind wasn't there, when you were growing in the womb, when there was no such thing as the mind there then. The innate intelligence knew what to do. It's the same intelligence as rolling the earth around the sun, causing the seasons to come, the tides to come in and out. It's beating your heart, it's growing your hair in your fingernail, it's taking that breath you took. Realise, recognise these things. It's continuing to do it, whether we put concepts or ideas or images on it or not. And whether the seeming suffering goes on in it or not. While ever you're relating it dualistically, it must vibrate in its opposites. There's not going to be the one essence appearing, patterning, and expressing as everything. It's going to be a dualistic functioning. It's going to be locked in and it's going to cause the fears, anxiety, stress, guilt, shame and remorse, and all your psychological suffering comes about because of that relationship. Relativity, dualism. And all those great scriptures will tell you it is non-dual. It's one without a second. It's non-conceptual. It's total omnipresence. It's total presence. It's omnipotence. It's total power. It's total intelligence. It's a totality. Never to. Grasp onto that. That you are the totality right here, right now, in this moment. You always have been and always will be. And isn't there a great sense of relief in the recognising or even leaving it be? When there's no thoughts coming corrupting it or contaminating it. But thoughts come up. Appearance will still come up. The world will still appear out there. But what's the difference? The difference is in you recognising it for what it is. It is a totality that has the ability or the intelligence to fashion, shape and form in all this diversity, and if it didn't do that there would be nothing, which it is in all its essence. The basic screen in which everything appears on it is the silence, it is the stillness, it is the cognising emptiness, which the Buddha pointed out, a cognising emptiness. Not that we cognise the emptiness, but the emptiness itself has the capacity, the innate intelligence of cognising or knowing. Another name for intelligence is knowing. That's what jnana is. Jnana, niva, munkta is whatever jiva is the knowledge, the Gnostics and all the rest of it. It's just that knowing. Anyone who is not knowing right now, you don't have to be rose scholar to realise, no, I am knowing. I can't negate that knowingness. And that can't negate the knowingness, you can't negate the beingness. Can't negate the existence, the consciousness and the happiness to be. If you've fixated in some conceptual image, you might be seeming unhappy and despairing and sad. But you haven't got that conceptual image, you realise you are the bare knowingness itself. You can't say it's right or wrong. As Shakespeare told you a couple hundred years ago, there's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. It's a believing in the mind that makes it so. And Sagata tells you nothing can trouble you excepting your own imagination. Break that word imagination down to image in. And isn't that what we're doing? Have a look at all these so-called thoughts, feelings, emotions you have. Aren't they mental images? Mental images which have no substance or any independent nature. So we see that this ego, the thought I see can't see, the thought I hear can't hear, the thought I am aware is not your awareness, the thought I choose is not the choice maker. The thought cannot do anything at all. Because thought, feeling and emotion are one and the same thing, a vibrating pattern of energy. Just like steam, water and ice are one and the same thing, different aspects of H2O. And as steam, you don't know it as anything, it's just a vapour, water vapour. When it condenses a little bit, it becomes a cloud, it's seemingly much more substantial. When it comes down to rain, it's seemingly solid and real. But it's still the one essence. Just the same as thought, feelings, emotion is still the one essence. And the Buddha told you that it's a cognising emptiness, not that we are cognising or knowing. But it is that innate intelligence that you are that's fashioning something, it's knowing. It's expressing through you now and subtly telling you, I am that. I couldn't be anything else. I'm not this pattern of energy that I believe in. So I am that essence. And he made the statement then that this cognising emptiness, it's not that we are as the personal cognising, knowing the emptiness, it's the emptiness that's doing the cognising, it's forming the knowingness in us, that's enabling us to know the emptiness. He made the statement then that emptiness is form. Have a look at that one and see that all this manifestation, because he turned it round and said the other way, the form could be nothing other than the emptiness. This form is the vibrating emptiness, patterning on that screen of emptiness, the silence and the stillness, the space-like stillness, silence. The basic screen that's never contaminated or corrupted by anything that appears on it. Take a movie screen, you see the same thing in that. What movie has ever contaminated or corrupted the screen it appears on? It comes and goes, but the screen is untouched. Got a mirror in the end of the room there, have a look at the mirror, you'll see reflections in it. You can't say those reflections are not there, go up and try and grab a reflection. You can't. All you do is grab the mirror. You can't say those reflections are not there. They seem to be there. But they have never corrupted or contaminated the mirror in any shape or form. See that the thoughts, feeling and emotions and things and all the wars and volcanoes erupting, tsunamis and everything else, the ice ages have come about, have never corrupted that true nature that you are. Never can and never will. And settle into the statement that I am that. That is all there is. I can't be anything other than that. And let the reflections come and go, which they will. And isn't that been so? Look back on your life and see you haven't. Their life is constantly transient, constantly changing. Even in this moment. It's not the same breath you took a moment ago. But allow it to happen. And without resisting it, that's what we do. We resist it and try to alter, modify and create and destruct, or whatever, what is. Leave it as it is, and it changes by itself. And again, you don't have to be a rose scholar to see that's what's continually happened in your life and continuing to happening. Where are all the past disasters that you had 20 years ago or so and so? There are only vague memories in your mind right now, and you can put the energy of belief into them and make them seem horrific and real and go back and relate to it and say this and this happened and I'm bound by it. And bind yourself into it. Go ahead. That's what we continue to do until you recognise that. There comes a point, if the urge is there, the sincerity is there or whatever, to move you out of it, it will. Left as it is, it'll move you along to the continuity of recognising that you can't be anything other than that is there and all is it. Doesn't mean to say the patterns, shapes and forms won't appear, they will. But the great scriptural saying is know the truth. Know the truth. And the truth will set you free. What can you be free from? The only thing you can ever be free from is the belief that you are something other than that. You never were, never will be, or never could be. So recognise that conceptual image can't see, can't hear, can't taste, can't touch, can't smell, can't be aware, but the touch, seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling is going, and we're related to that myself. Instead of recognizing what they say, it is the one self, the one and only self, that's patterning, shaping, forming and expressing everything. We've taken it to be a personal self, myself. But I've just pointed out that the person is not the reality, the person is not the thing, the person has no self. And if you recognise that there is a self there, it is the same self that's here. It's the same self that's out there or anywhere or any place or we like to put it. It's the one self that is still the patterning, shaping, and you are that. That's what we point to and ask you to question it. Have a look at it. Argue about it. If you've seen it yourself and looked at it, and you've all had taste of it if you come here for a while and you'll know it, don't hesitate to take delivery of your true nature. We took delivery of this fictional entity we are and reinforce it, try to make something of it, and we've tried as hard as possible to and never got anywhere. Until it's taking you beyond that and to look a little bit further into something else and take you to a point when you hear something like this. And if you think there's something other than this, go and look for it, try and find it. Because continue that investigation until you're absolutely certain that you are the absolute. And it only and ever can be the absolute, because the absolute is all there is. They call it the great perfection in Buddhism. What is perfection? Can you add anything to the perfect? The slightest thing you could add to it would make believe that the belief that it was imperfect and something could be added to it. When you realise the perfection is as it is right now, it's totally perfect. You can't add anything to it. Can you take anything away from it? You can't remove anything from it. The same with the absolute. Absolute is absolute. Can you add anything to it? Can you take anything away from it? And if there is only the great perfection and the absolute, same, not different terms, put out there, what must you be? You don't have to be rose-coloured. Say, well, I can only and must and only and ever be that. I am that already. Change the conceptual image you've got about yourself and the conceptual belief you're relating in. Take on the totality. It's the one essence appearing as everything, and I can only be that. Question or argue or tell us whatever, but we've got a long way to go, so it's up to you. Want to add anything to it? Take away? Anything I've forgotten or made mistakes I've made? Probably several. But it doesn't matter here what's made. Doesn't matter. See, that word doesn't matter. It hasn't solidified into something concrete. And isn't that all that spirit and matter is? It's one and the same thing in different labels. Spirit is the essence. Matter is the consolidated or seemingly solidified spirit. So there's neither spirit nor matter. It's just that, isn't it? And you are that.
We can go home now.
When you, and take it with you wherever you go. Take it with you. Try and get it. Try and leave it behind if you can.
I find the morning is the worst shock. Wake up and the anxiety while you're going through the process.
Then it gets better during the day.
Well, yeah, the initial few minutes, like 5, 10, half an hour. Well, the initial 10 seconds, and wake up. It's such a shock. The eyes open up.
Yeah. And did you say, I'm going to start seeing when your eyes open?
No.
But the seeing is there, isn't
The
it?
seeing is there, yeah.
And you get a shock because we go back into the old idea of a conceptual image of personal self.
And wants to buy into the story.
Yeah, just say to yourself, hang on a minute, that's the same old rubbish I'm getting into. Drop it. What am I right now?
Well, that's the shock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yet there is that first second before your 10 seconds when everything's fine. You just
Yeah.
wake up before you get into the story of me again, and it might last for 5 or 10 seconds, yeah. Hi, Bill.
It's like that's when you need a coffee. I find it hard to get out of bed at that point. Anything I do is going to be doing.
But do you stay in bed?
Well, not when I have to go to the toilet.
So something moves you out of it. Realise that your concept, maybe I'm not going to get out of bed, or I don't want to get out of bed. Something will make it change, bring about the change. And even though you're stuck in that thought, I don't want to get out of bed, has the breathing stopped? Has the heart beating stopped? Have cells stopped being dying and being replaced? Livingness is still going on.
But that's a shock that you realise that you are beating the heart.
Of course it's a shock because we've gone into the conditional belief and reinforced it from the time we first learned words. And not only you have reinforced it, but your parents have reinforced it around you, your schools, your society, your nation, everybody else will reform it. 99.9% of the world are coming from that point of view. I am this individual, I am this person, I am this separate entity. But there have always been some down through the ages pointing out, they're not the person. And they've sent those people up as saints, sages and seers. They've formed all these religions about them, they've got other concepts that they didn't say onto them to give them some reality, and worshipped the messenger and missed out on the message. The messenger is just a pattern, shape and form, not worth a bumper, whether it be Christ, Buddha or anybody else you like to call him. Just a pattern, shape and form, like this is here. But the message, the word, which is not the real, is a good pointer to look to where the word is pointing to. That the word is not the real, the map is not the territory, the description is not the described. And that's all we're doing, translating into words, concepts, ideas and images. Drop the word and ask yourself, what is wrong with right now if I don't think about it? And let the thoughts be, without label, "Oh, that's not a thought, I've got to get rid of this thought and stop it," or whatever. Just leave it as it is, without putting any energy or belief into the words if it's coming up. See how you feel about it then.
Don't buy into the story.
Ah.
I find that's the tricky bit in that first, so just after you wake up and you have gone back into that conceptual self. And then it's that stream of thought that comes and says, "Oh, for God's sake, you know, I've been coming to see Bob for a while, I've been chatting to him now, and do something, man, what do you need to do?" You know, and to get caught in that sense of the doer, again, you know, rather than just trying to drop the lot.
Well, then you realise doing happens. If doing's happened without being related to a doer and the done, it's just happening, just the same as seeing is happening, whether you relate to a seer or a seen. Thinking is happening. It's the functioning is going on, and all this diversity in the manifestation, it's all appearing like that. But nothing has ever happened. No thing. Everything is a pattern, shape and form, and you and I and everything else in this manifestation are things. But we're not separate from what it appears in. The screen of emptiness and silence is doing. And each pattern is a unique expression. Not just one and the same thing. It's the one expressing as the many. And that's what happens. It appears to express in the multitude of different pattern shapes and forms. Time, plus space, planets, stars, universes, whatever. Never anything other than the one. What do you think? What do you think?
No, you're brilliant. You're perfect. I was dreaming about the time when I don't have to sit here and I can just watch the door. And it's happening. I'm kind of dreaming about the time when I don't really have to be the backup. And it's happening.
Hey, what's it like for you, Kat, when you wake up first thing?
I don't quite remember. I mean, there is no anxiety or anything.
No.
It's just basically a curiosity what is going to happen. I mean, you know, like when the body is still in bed, it is still in bed. When the body is walking out, it is walking out. And I'm the knowing. I'm this awareness of whatever is happening. The body is the content. I'm not the body. The body is obviously is my instrument for seeing, for hearing, and all that. But this is just, you know, just a device, like a camera for the computer. So whatever the body is experiencing is a content. The body is a content, and the experience and experiencing of the body is a content. And I'm the knowing. I'm the pure knowing.
And that's
so yeah, I don't really have much of the preferences anymore. Like, you know, if I don't feel like getting up, I just don't get up. And then in half an hour later, I'll find myself getting up, and I used to be really uneasy about it. Like 4 or 5 years ago, I would be feeling guilty. I would be feeling a parasite. I'm not productive. I'm worthless. I should be doing cleaning, whatever. I should be deserving love in the world. I don't really have that concerns anymore, because there's nothing outside. There is nobody's approval or love that I actually need to earn. Doesn't mean that I won't appreciate it when it comes. I certainly do. But there is no urge to earn it or.
I don't really have a story around my experience, but I have noticed that the deeper I move into this, the less interest I have in people. feel a bit bad to say it, but you know, I have less interest in people, and not only just my own development, which my own supposed personal development, which I have has dropped off, but really just less interest in other people and spending time together, and these things just don't seem to have the energy doesn't seem to be there. I hesitate to say that they're less important, because obviously you have a sense of love for these, but it's like, and then I start having my own stories. Well, what am I, depressed, am I? What's going on? What's going on?
No, you're just not needy anymore.
Is that what it is?
And at least this is how it is for me. That I used to, and I was even talking to Bob about it yesterday, how important it used to be for me, the very deep bonding friendships, that I still have people who know me for 20, 30 years, and we love each other, and it's gonna be like this. But there is no neediness of reassurance anymore. Like those type of friendships and those type of connections were my security, sort of a thing. It was, if I was feeling really uneasy and unworthy, I knew that there are some people there who are really close to me, who love me, and that was my safety. I mean, money was never really that much of an issue, whether I had them or not, but for me it was close connections. And right now it doesn't really seem to have the same effect. I mean, whether they exist or they don't, it doesn't really matter that much. As I said, it's appreciated, but I don't really crave for it. I don't really ask for it. I don't go there and maintain it in a way. I don't put much effort in it. As you say, the energy is not there.
Yeah.
The effort is not
like
there.
What Bob says, the energy of belief has decreased from this separate entity. You know? So the thoughts go in, but there's not that energy sort of, creating it all. But what I want to say, Bob, I've been saying it for a while. Your talks, you start with something, and I really appreciated the talk today, because you hold on to this theme for 20, 30 minutes, and it's quite different than it may have been 5 years ago. And I really like what you were talking about, words and labels and things, and you just kept it, you'd hear, and that was really, really great. But one thing I can always talk about, and that's, I probably don't, because it probably takes time, but I remember there was a time when I thought I was the subject, and that was the, world, and then eventually I thought, hang on, this is the body's the object too, I don't know where the subject was then. But now, just listening to you this morning, I thought, it's all just object. There's no room to put a subject on it. There's just it's all object. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, end of story, Bob. Yeah.
As I say, there's no one-ended stick. Each stick's got two ends to it, so it's not going to be one-sided all the time. It vibrates into its opposite continually. And which one is preferable? No. Left as it is, without any preferences, partiality or comparison, it just it'll change. But we generally prefer the good to the bad, and so-called this, that and the other, But they're just labels, as Shakespeare said. Nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Come on.
I was speaking to someone the other day who was recounting an experience of quite a severe trauma that happened to them, and that they were talking about how their sense of I am left the body, and as you often hear accounted, ends up and they're kind of up on the roof somewhere, and obviously within psychology you'd call that dissociation, etc. But I was thinking about it from this context and just wondering, because I've had experiences of consciousness leaving the body, and as many of us have, and to a part of the mind that feels like a dualism. It feels like, well, hang on a minute, there's consciousness up on the roof looking down at a body or an experience down here, but actually that's all content. It's all still just the one content. I thought you could just say something to that kind of what seems like a somewhat common experience for people that have had high levels of trauma or difficulty, or even in moments of bliss. I think,
Yeah. Yeah, it's even the exercise in the NLP where you actually pretend to be the fly on the wall just to have a little bit, create a little bit of a distance to yourself. So it is a common experience. You can even use imagination and talk yourself to the place of realizing yourself, your body, mind as an object. But the one who is realizing is also an object because it's also known. Whether you sit on the ceiling or you sit on behind your head, this position from which you are looking is also known in the awareness. And you can move back, okay, this position is known by this space, but this space is also known. And the ultimate knower is unlocatable, is the whole space.
The whole experience arises in the cognizing emptiness.
That's right, yeah.
And that pattern you call yourself to me, when you say you're looking at it from the ceiling, you're looking at it from somewhere else, did you go out there and see where you're looking at that from?
Yeah.
See, there's no static point anywhere. So if it's left that seemingly pattern you call the body, and the body's just an appearance in space, what are you? Out there where it seemed to be, you are the space itself. No static point on it anyway, when you'd rather say, this is where it begins.
You're still charging the battery. It's like the battery, when we're objectifying, either traumatically or not traumatic, whatever, blissfully, we're still objectifying the battery. And what my friend, I think, is referring to is that when the battery is recharging itself, we just let it fly, we let it go.
Yep.
There's no objectifying. So that recharging is an effort.
But who's doing it? Who is doing the recharging?
Yeah, well, that's
Who is digesting the food? Who is growing the hair? Is life doing everything?
Yeah, well, when you, that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, like there's no recharging. You don't need to recharge.
No. See how you are being lived moment to moment. Everything is taken care already.
If you can't find a static point anywhere, where are you going to measure anything from? You've got no dimension, no time, no space. You must be the totality, right? Unless you can find a static point somewhere in space or somewhere, let's say I'm that, or in your body, or anywhere at all. Can't. So we've got the concept or appearance that there's this manifestation and all its diversity. When you dream of a night, you're dreaming you're in a world. It can be in the mountains, you can be in the hills, be anywhere in that dream. But when you wake up, you realise your body hasn't moved off the bed. There's no words come out of the mouth, and you wake up into this dream. And this dream is the seemingly living dream, because if your dream you had at night continued every night from where it left off, like the seeming waking dream goes, can you tell the difference between the two? Can you? Have a look and see if you can't tell. Well, maybe this is like, as they say, it's Maya or illusion, and it's transient, it's constantly appearing, constantly changing. But in what dimension? Space. What dimension has space got? Has it got a centre or a circumference? Time. Look at time. Time got any duration? Or is it always in this immediacy? Any past you think about, actually thought about right now. Any future you imagine or anticipate, you don't even imagine right now. Nothing static point, no self-nature to anything, as they say. You can't deny or negate the appearance. It's seemingly so. And when you realise it's an appearance, trying to negate the appearance, you and I are things. It's a hopeless job, isn't it?
When you're not thinking about it, there's no need for this body to work perfectly, even which is a body, like everything we arranged and we turn into ice blocks. We wouldn't mind, we wouldn't care.
Well, thinking is a vibration. I'm just sort of thinking of that charging again like a battery, because we think thoughts are a label and thinking's a label, but it's actually like you can also say it's a vibration or energy or whatever. It's just a way. I'm sick of the thought. But yeah, it's when we have to charge the battery, it's a useless effort.
Yeah, just put the words away. Not a battery, not a battery, not charging, not anything. See if you disappear without the word.
And also see who, if there is any sort of a sense that there is someone who is sick of the words, someone who is sick of thoughts, someone who needs to recharge. See that someone is also known in the space. Because the moment you actually realize that someone, that little me, is also known, it kind of joins the content. It's like there is only space, and in that space, when that pure space is filtered by the body, it becomes space of seeing. Obviously you can't see the me, but you can see the body. Now you have the space of hearing. You can hear the inner voices. You can hear that me resisting thoughts or feelings. It is already that inner voice, that kind of translation of that me to the thought is known. So it is already a content of space because it is being known. Who is the knower? What is knowing about that inner voices or that sense of uneasiness of the me? See that pure space reflected or translated, or bodies like a crystal that through different senses it brings different colors, different lights. Like, white light becomes through the eyes, it becomes purple through the ears, it becomes red through the touch, sense of touch or balance. It's just like whole rainbow, pure space into a rainbow of space of seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling. And all that is appearing in those different spaces is content. So it is a content. The one who doesn't want, who is sick of thoughts, is a content. Because you are aware that there is someone who is sick of thoughts. So it is a content. And you are the screen, the awareness, the space of knowing. So now if you are the knowing, it doesn't matter what is the content. Whether the knowing is of the rainy day or of the sunny day. Whether the knowing is of pleasure or of pain. If you are the knowing, you are untouched by the content. If you are the pure space, you are not touched by any objects, whether the objects are physical objects or they visual or they sounds or they touch. Doesn't matter. It's just really coming back from the content into the pure process of knowing. Because only there you are invulnerable. You are already the emptiness, which is space, cognizing, which is the awareness. If you are already that pure unbound awareness or non-conceptual awareness, then you are the process of knowing. But what is known is the second story. It doesn't matter. What is known is Maya. It's an illusion. It's something that comes and goes and changes. See that you are not always sick of thoughts. Sometimes you quite enjoy them. They're pretty sweet thoughts when you are with someone you love or when you are fantasizing or whatever. This good and bad, pleasant, painful, the segregation. Okay, I'm sick of these thoughts and I'm not sick of that one. They're all content. Oh, I like the day, I don't like the night, or summer, or not winter.
Yeah, I think like there's thoughts that you attach, thoughts that come and go in like a cloud, beautiful, you know what I mean? Like they're so beautiful, and then like an artist, it's like artists feeling energy, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
But then there's thoughts that trick you into, recharging the battery kind of thing. Will I, won't I, am I, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's
I tried to recharge the battery, but I found that it had the Richard.
Yeah, you are the Richard. Yeah, so there are thoughts that actually trick you to recharging the battery. And now you see the whole process of thoughts being so charged, so seductive, that they totally take you for the trip of, oh yeah, now I need to recharge the battery. So see if this is really the you that is being taken by thoughts, or is just thoughts carrying out the life essence. And you are the ultimate knowing, because the way you describe this process, shows that you actually know what is going on. You know, you almost like relating the movie. Okay, you know, there are these thoughts that take you for the ride of recharging the battery. They actually take the thoughts that taking what for the ride. They're just taking a little bit of an attention for the ride. But the attention is also just the filtering of awareness. You know, the non-conceptual or unfixated awareness filtered through the space of seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling appears as the attention. So the attention follows the thought, but there is still an awareness of it. So the thoughts are actually stealing. And what is attention? Everything is one. So attention is the same thing as everything else, as non-dual, one, awareness, consciousness, life essence, intelligence, whatever you want to call it. So attention is kind of like a laser beam sharp version of that same non-conceptual awareness. But it is being witnessed by the non-conceptual awareness, the thoughts taking that life essence for the ride. But you are the one who knows of it. You are the knowing of it. As long as you will believe that you are the victim of those particular set of thoughts, you will experience the pain of being a victim. Because that's how belief works. When you believe in Santa Claus, you wait for the gifts, for the presents. When you believe you are worthless, you go and plan your suicide. Because the belief, it kind of brings it to reality. It labels it out of nothing into reality. People believe that the earth was flat, or that the sea is blue, or that there is a pot of gold at the end of rainbow. It's a belief that makes things seemingly real. So when you believe that that certain thoughts have the power over you, so there is a you and there is certain thoughts that are kidnapping you and taking you for the ride, and this is you inside of the cage made by thoughts, that will be exactly what you experience. But when you stop believing it, and the only way to stop believing it is actually to see that there is still a knowing awareness watching that whole drama inside. And now who are you? Are you the character in the movie, in the drama, or are you the one who is aware of it? The moment you recognize yourself as the pure awareness of it, it doesn't mean that that character in the drama, when the character breaks the leg, that the leg won't hurt. It will, or the foot won't ache, or whatever. There will be different thoughts, images, all sorts of things that is going on all the time. But you are the awareness. You only use that character to see the movie, because the pure awareness, the pure screen, doesn't have any eyes. It's pure space-like non-conceptual awareness. It doesn't have any capacity of seeing, unless it dreams itself a body with the eyes. So, but it goes with the package that this body is experiencing the experiences.
Well, that's the other shock, is that when you sleep, you know, like you're not aware, or you're not conscious, seemingly. Yeah.
Well, you don't know. This is the only thing, because the memory is not working. The computer is not recording. The tape recorder is off. So you don't know.
And then you wake up, and you know, am I the thoughts or am I the awareness? And it takes a little while to then, you know, slip after that first cup of whatever.
There's either filtering or there's no filtering. To me, that's like.
Well, I'd love to get to the no filtering.
You have moments, I'm sure.
But yeah, because all of a sudden.
But how about having both, the filtering and the non-filtering? Like, you know, the filtering is going on, so your eyes are functioning, and the pure space is filtered into the space, three-dimensional space of the space we know it. Now, the space is also converted to the field, filtered to the field of hearing. That's filtering. Yeah. And now the space of thinking is also filtering. The pure non-conceptual awareness filtered through this sensory organs becomes a thinking, feeling, hearing, sensing, whatever.
Just enjoy it.
And just enjoy it, because the filtering is going on, and let it go on. Isn't it beautiful? And then non-filtering is also going on. I mean, you are aware of the filtering. So you are beyond the filtering. You are already beyond the filtering. You are beyond the movie, the drama, being aware of it. It is quite profound, because non-filtering, pure non-filtering, is probably still going to happen when the body is not. So the coming back to the unfiltered space. Like the eyes are not functioning, ears are not functioning, sense of touch, smell, whatever is not functioning. So that filtering collapses.
Death.
Yes. Yes. But then there is still a knowing. There's Sat Chitananda, being, knowing, loving to be. Well, I shouldn't be talking about it because my near-death experience was just a few minutes, and obviously I'm here. But this is what the non-filtering is about. We should not be concerned with it right now, because this is not what is going on right now. Imagination, anticipation, religions, beliefs is going to be like this or like that. It doesn't really take us anywhere, because while talking and thinking about that, we are missing this moment now, in which we can enjoy the filtering, all the colors, the white light transform into a seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling. That's amazing. Only, of course, when you said, certain thoughts are taking you for the ride and are taking you for the mode of needing to recharge the battery. So this is the drama. This is where the suffering kicks in. But to take the sting out of this suffering, of that whole process of attention being, like the thoughts being animated by the attention and making the movie real, is basically just shift back and see, how do you know? How do you know this is what is going on? Oh, well, I know. And the only thing you know is that you know. What do you know? You don't know. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what's the content. But there is a capacity of knowing. Like when Bob is asking, are you unaware? No, you're not. You are aware. You are conscious. So you are conscious, and the objects of consciousness. Yeah, the thoughts are torturing the body. Yes, that's what's happening, maybe, at this moment. Cool. Let's see how long this one is going to last. Yeah, but I don't want it to happen. Who says that? That's just another thought. So there are thoughts torturing the body, and another thought wanting to stop this thought. Yeah, that's the movie. That's what is going on the screen. Cool, let's see how long this is going to last. It's always kind of stepping back from the battlefield. Like, there's one thought fighting with the other thought and having the, like all the drama going on, all the universe inside the head going on, which is usually what is not presently happening. Because presently happening is the touch of the carpet on your feet, is the chair on your ass, and the lights in the room and the sounds. That's what's happening. But the torture inside the head is usually what is purely imagined. It's imagination. So now this imagined universe is being known, and then knowing this imagined universe and not really interfering with it. When Bob is saying leave it unaltered, unmodified, uncorrected, it means don't try to stop it. Don't try to push it down, to suppress it, or to, like people have ideas, oh, this is really such a negative thought, I shouldn't be this way, guilt. This is all part of the content. Leave it as it is, see how long it lasts. Sometimes there will be whole day clouded, whole day heavy rainy clouds on the sky. What do you do about it? You just see how long it will last. You can do absolutely nothing. There will be days when mind is very active, and there will be days when the mind is not really active.
You have to deal with people as well, like relationships.
Totally. You deal with people, relationships.
Yeah, you're the worst.
Yeah.
Unity.
And you don't really do it either, because see, these people that you met, the relationships, people who are close or people who are enemies, whatever.
Job, your work.
job, work. Yeah, absolutely. So this conditioned responses are already, the machine already knows what to do. It's just same as the animals, you know. They never saw that cat next door, our cats, before they did. And they didn't really have to worry about how they're going to react. They just see, oh, that was the reaction. Getting twice bigger and run and yell. That was the reaction. So having the same approach to people you work and the relationships, instead of rehearsing it in your head, just trust that this pattern will have its own response. And be curious what the response is going to be. Maybe it's not going to be from the book, you know. Maybe it's not going to be the way the social conditioning expects you to do as a good person. Maybe sometimes you will swear at someone. But so what? This is how this pattern is conditioned to do. And then what at least Bob is suggesting, and what kind of proves logical, if you are not needy anymore and you are not suffering anymore, there is much less likely that you will want to hurt anyone. So usually people who don't suffer themselves, they basically just want to help others and they smile at others. They don't hurt others. So worrying that, oh yeah, but what if I do something wrong? Or what if I hurt someone? Well, that doesn't really make much sense anymore. Apart from the fact that sometimes hurting someone is the biggest service you can do for them, because they start investigating and they wake up. Not to suggest to consciously hurt someone, of course. But really worrying about relationships, how am I going to be with the other? That's just pointless imagining yourself out of the moment.
Same with worrying about your thoughts, kind of thing.
That's exact, yes.
But yeah, but a person is more tangible, looks like the real character in the movie.
Yeah, permanent, you know. Yeah.
And you take it kind of more seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they could be threatening or not threatening, or loving or not loving.
And it can be quite fascinating.
You had that first interaction as a little baby with that other your parents' eyes, or who fucked you up in the beginning anyway, or whatever the problem. Yeah.
Maybe they didn't fuck you up. Maybe they made you to the masterpiece of creation that you are now.
Yeah.
If they didn't do these few mistakes, I mean, this is what you call a mistake anyway.
Great.
And don't forget it either.
Yeah.
Okay, I got that one.
Yeah. Because when we judge something as, you know, like all the parents are dysfunctional, right? And all the people are addicted, at least to some drugs or some thoughts or some ideas. Anyway, it is always a judgment in comparison to some imagined ideal. That, oh yeah, I would be better, or Bob would be better off if he didn't start drinking. Really? He wouldn't be talking to you guys right now. So wonderful that he started drinking. And who knows, the suffering is just what brings the depth into that beautiful canvas that the body-mind pattern is. And in life, this is the artist. This is the one who shapes it. If it uses the dysfunctional parents that fuck you up, well, that's part of the tools. That's this paintbrush. That, yeah. See, if you actually see yourself, as Bob says, as pure perfection, then you see that there is absolutely nothing wrong, that maybe you have too long toes, or you have maybe too blonde hair, or too dark, or maybe accent, or whatever. You don't see it as a problem anymore, because you stop comparing it with anything else. And you just basically see like, whoa, that's fascinating. What is that pattern going to do in the relation to the whatever? The person who has the story about me that doesn't really match the reality. Ah, let's find out. I have no idea. Let's find out. And now with that attitude of curiosity, you're learning about that pattern, Simon, and you see how he is, you begin to fall in love with him. Like, because you don't really know, and you don't really have expectations. You don't really rise that bar so high. Oh, he always have to be polite and kind, and he can't screw up, and he can't do mistake. Nah. He can do whatever he wants. He is a miracle. There could have been nothing. And you have this very, very complex pattern of thought reactions, with preferences for music, for food, extremely complex pattern. And now, as the screen or the awareness, when you watch this pattern without the judgment, you can't help but see perfection. Even though...
But we should still work on the accent, I think, Bob.
I love you too.
You've got two extreme accents, right? Like an Aussie accent and a Polish accent. Right?
Yeah.
What we need is an African. Sorry. Yeah, non-dual. Yeah, it's when I split and went into that non-dual, into that duality. That separate sign.
And you judge him.
Yeah.
Isn't it all imaged? But a mental image? Imagine. We imagine things. What it tells in the Bible, thou shalt not make unto thyself any graven images. We think that's, they're talking about worshipping stone idols and all that. But we get these images about this, that and the other in our heads and worship that. We bow down to these idols, imagine images in our head.
Because it kind of started first, actually, by when you saw your parents' eye, but by imaging first, like, the little baby was imaging, was watching, he didn't really know words too much then, right? But the image started forming a kind of a split.
Yeah, the energy of belief goes into the image. It makes it real, seemingly real. But Maya is a phenomenal manifestation. A dictionary definition of phenomena is that which appears to be. So all this manifestation is appearance only. It's only seemingly so.
Some are graven in stone and some are graven in shit.
So what does that mean, just thinking about, without going into the cat's near-death experience, because again, as that, or whether somebody's on the roof looking down, it's all content. So is that there's the energy of belief, insofar as somebody says, oh yes, I was looking down on myself, it's all just content arising in the emptiness, isn't it?
Totally.
So it shows the depth of conviction and belief that we put in, still even at that point, that there's still this central part that looks down on the body.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And it's interesting that right at the moment of your apparent death, that's almost like the very first primary belief that there is this core autonomous self-centre that's looking down on my body, still holds on right to the very end. The supposed end.
Not many light people in the afterlife, I expect.
And very often it doesn't have to be this way. It may be just the translation that the mind put on it. Because in absence of vocabulary and in presence of religious beliefs, there may be the experience, because my experience was the DMT experience. There was absolutely no one looking at anything. There was no world. There was no time, no space, no senses. So there is no such a thing. But now, 5-6 years ago, if I was to express that experience and use words for it, I would probably come up with some nonsense like this. Watching it, whatever, being outside of the cosmos and watching, like there was an entity watching something. Because very often people, they experience something, they touch something. And those experiences are more common than we think. People, almost everyone had one or the other car accident or something where the time slows down. And then later on they have a story about it. And they come back to the memory, and as the memory, they translate it through the words, through the mind. And it comes out as something completely different and always than the moment of experience. And that's also what happens when people had some sort of a non-dual experience for a moment. And they put it in words. And they embellish it in the mind. And they dream and fantasize about coming back to it. Coming back to the memory. But there is no coming back to memory, because memory is a story. So it may be, as you say, that the consciousness is holding on to the idea of being something out there, always localized, watching the appearance, and that very belief creates the whole scenery. Or it could be also just an imperfect translation. when you have to use words to put experience in words, and later on you believe in your own translation, in your own image that you created about what happened.
Time.
There is
is-
no time.
We'll bring it into existence tonight.